No, dude, I need to get a mist cloak right now.
All right. Hello, everybody. This is Lost in the Cosmere, and this is a podcast series. My buddy and I are starting with this first episode. I recently got caught up on the Cosmere uh, last year in 2023, and he has just kind of started to get into it. And so this series is going to be kind of documenting his journey through it and any other books we are happening to be reading at the time. So after this, Cullen, my co-host here, will probably be reading the second Red Rising trilogy books. But today we're going to start with the first three Mistborn books, the first
Yes.
trilogy.
Yes. So, yeah, we named the podcast after Brandon Sanderson's The Cosmere books, but we're gonna do a little detour after this episode, really quick, and then we'll kind of come back to the Cosmere for a bit, and then do another detour, and then we'll go back to the Cosmere. But
Yes.
we're gonna just stick to one episode for all the first trilogy. So what do we want to start with? We're going to start with the kind of
Let's start with a very quick, non-spoiler review. I want to hear from you your thoughts on the trilogy as a whole and
yeah.
how you'd rank it in the fantasy genre and compared to other trilogies you've read or watched or just seen.
So for me, I think it's definitely. I know we've talked about it every once in a while, like outside of the podcast, but it's definitely up there with like the Lord of the Rings and like the original Star Wars. I know
Hmm.
Brandon Sanderson's been trying to make this into a movie, and I think this would be like one of the. You know how like Dune's doing really good in terms of like a movie trilogy that everybody's
Yeah.
excited for. This would be like the next big thing. It would be so good.
This would be like the fantasy Dune that
Yeah,
everybody needs.
truly it would be, and I think it would fix the fantasy problem that movies seem to have. But
Hmm.
anyway, uh, as a whole, I think it's really solid. I think there's no way of knowing when you're reading the first book. I think how the whole thing's gonna end. Even the second book,
Yeah,
even the first book, you don't even know how it's going to end because there were things
yeah,
that happened at the end of the first book that I honestly thought would not happen. I think he
right.
subverts the expectations very well, comparatively to other things. And obviously, everybody, our opinions on this are our opinions. We're not trying to bash anybody.
Yes, we're not trying to say it's objectively better than anything. We're just saying in our opinions, we hold it up
We hold it up to that.
to those
But
standards.
yes, those standards. Um, but I think he subverts the expectations that everybody has, and it's crazy because when did the first book come out? Like 2006.
I believe 2006, yeah.
So I mean, over 10 years ago, and he was doing something that was completely different to the rest of the fantasy
2006.
genre, and I think it's super interesting. I think the power system is really interesting. As a whole, I think it is a just solid book trilogy that even if you don't want to get into the Cosmere and like read the million and one things that Brandon Sanderson has, you could read this and be like, solid. This is cool. I enjoyed this a
Hmm.
lot. Um, so yeah,
Completely agree. And so that's kind of the take from somebody who's like just recently read it.
yeah,
And everything he said is 100% correct. Like the book is just great, and he subverts expectations in a really interesting way that keeps you engaged and keeps you guessing.
I think so.
Some of, I mean, some things are predictable, but it's not anything major. Like
It's very
I think the things
minimal
that are
how
predictable
predictable.
are well done, and like predictability isn't a bad thing.
Mm-mm.
But even then, I would never call his books predictable.
No, I
There's
think
always some kind of twist, towards the end of his books, or even at the beginning. The book could be completely different from what you expected going into it. But I will say what makes Mistborn so special is how different it feels compared to other fantasy worlds, and I attribute that to the power system and the planet they live on, and how the power system works into kind of the everyday life of the people in the world. Like it's different than like, Lord of the Rings or something where it's like your typical fantasy. I mean, I don't know if it's weird to call Lord of the Rings typical fantasy because Lord of the Rings is like the origin of all typical
I
fantasy.
would say it's easy to say
Right.
it is because it is what I think. I don't know. I don't want to sit here and cite that that's what started
But
it,
like
but that's what
a lot
started
of
it.
a lot of stories like take that base format
Right.
of Lord of the Rings with like the orcs and elves and all of that, and not that's not a bad thing at all. Not at all what I'm
Mm-mm.
saying. But a lot of fantasy series use that as like the template, whereas this does not use it as the template. He kind of
No.
made his own template, and I really respect that because it's not an easy thing to do. Like you're taking a big risk trying to invent something fantastical on your own and hoping that it can stand up to the template that Tolkien made, right? Like there's a reason why like all the like D&D stuff is based off of, the same kind of few races that Tolkien invented. Like it just works. It's good. It's a good like template to tell your stories, but I like that he created his own thing here and it feels very unique, which I like.
Yeah, I think that adds to the just the new different element to it, which is
Hmm.
crazy because again, it's like almost 20 years old actually.
Yeah,
So,
getting there.
I mean, it's crazy to think that something like this was written so far back.
Hmm.
I don't know what that says about things written today, but it's really solid and we need more stories like this today. Is basically
Completely agree.
what needs to be said.
And one more thing, non-spoilery, I think his character work and the way he writes character arcs are some of the best in the business. Like every character has an arc in their own book, but also an overall arc that ends with this trilogy. And I think he wraps up most of them beautifully. Like I'd say 90% of them have like a beautiful ending. I mean, obviously some characters get more time than others, you know, but like yeah, he does really good character work, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, and we'll go into it a little bit more with I think the spoiler talk
Hmm.
in terms of which characters I feel. I don't think any of the characters had bad endings, but I think there are a few
Some
that
characters could have gotten more time,
I think they could
is
have
the
gotten
thing.
more time, especially with their endings.
Yeah.
But overall, yeah, you're right. Like 90% of the characters having really good endings, that's like really good to have
Hmm.
in something like this. Because I don't know how many stories I read where it's just like, there's always like somebody where it's just like, yeah, their ending was great, but like, I could care less.
Right, yeah. But
It,
no,
you,
he really makes you care for a lot of these characters,
I agree
which,
a
yeah,
lot.
isn't easy to do.
No, it's not. It's no, it's not at all.
Even the characters that appear like infrequently, he still, I think, makes you care a good deal about.
Yeah, I think so. Because I think, yeah, I mean, I think each of the characters has enough of something to get you hooked on them to where I can
Hmm.
see anybody being somebody's favorite character. But there's definitely characters that are like, this person has way bigger of a fan base than
Right, yeah.
this character. So yeah.
Anyway, overall, we think the trilogy is really good, and we want movies. We want movies
Now.
yesterday.
Do movies
Yes.
now.
Um, so moving on from that, I
Yeah.
guess we're going to move into the spoiler talk, and I say we try and do one book at a time, but warning, like we probably will not be able to stick to that. We'll
No.
probably at least mention things throughout the whole trilogy, but we'll
Yeah.
try to go one book at a time. But like we could be talking about something from book one and then mention something that happens in book three. And be
Yeah.
like, whoa, wasn't that so cool? But anyway, starting with
Newsflash,
book
we did not
one.
plan this very well. We'll plan it better next
Yes.
time.
Next time will be better planned.
Yes.
So, for book one, The Final Empire,
Yes.
um, what did you think of that book overall?
Okay, so
Because
overall,
it's more fresh in your mind than it is in mine.
yes. So overall, if we want to, I guess, go one by one, I would say none of the books, for me, are less than a 9 out of 10.
Okay.
But obviously, some of them are better than the other ones. I think this is
Sure.
actually the weakest one. Personally,
Hmm.
I think it's the weakest one.
I can see that.
Because I think it's the closest to what would typically be in a fantasy set,
Yeah.
which is crazy comparatively to the other two that aren't that close.
No, I do think the first book's a little safer.
Yes. But I think it's really good, and I think it hooks you in to the world really well. I think it
Hmm.
explains Allomancy as a whole really, really well, and I think that's in due part to his character work, like we were kind of talking about in the non-spoiler talk, because I think what he does really well is that he establishes with the power system that it's like you either have everything or you have one thing
Hmm.
very early on, and I think that lends really, really well to the main character Vin's, you know, development with the powers,
Absolutely.
because I think having at least a chapter for her with some of the other crew members who almost all of them have like one speciality because some of them are Mistings other than Kelsier who is a Mistborn too.
Hmm.
I think it allows her to like those characters to get development, but two to like give her more of that one-on-one learning the type of allomancy that goes through. So it's not just like I guess it's not the typical trope of like the master and the student. It's more like there is that there with Kelsier and Vin,
Hmm.
but it is more like a group is like there with
Hmm.
her as the
It
student.
has a bit more of like a found family
Right.
aspect,
And I think you could
where Vin is
even
being adopted into this family and learning from all of them, not necessarily just Kelsier. It's like Kelsier is like the head of the family, so she learns the most, but then she has a bunch of siblings like Ham and Reese and all these other people that she's learning other things from.
yeah, and I think I mean it's not even just them because I think on top of that, you even have Sazed teaching her stuff.
Oh yeah.
Maybe not allomancy wise, and obviously Doxon's not
Kelsey's like the dad and Sazed's like the mom.
right. Yeah, I guess. Yeah, yeah, you're right.
It's kind of funny, but like Sazed is like a mom.
Right. So I think it lends to a really cool dynamic mixed with a good dynamic for how the story is played out.
Mhm.
And it
Another
just,
thing that I'll say
mm,
about the like intro of the book, I like how it starts with. First of all, I love how he does epigraphs at the beginning of all of his chapters. I
yes.
think the epigraph right at the beginning of the book, like the first line is like, "I sometimes wonder, or I sometimes think that I'm not the hero everybody thinks I am," right?
Hmm.
Like, I don't know if that's the exact line, but hold on,
We can do a fact check.
I can pull it up right freaking now.
But to that point, it is
Yeah,
really
keep talking.
cool because that one, if it's right the way you said it, is a really cool
Hmm.
contrast to the first one of the final book, because the final book's first epigraph is "I unfortunately am the hero of ages," which I think is really cool.
Hmm.
So yeah, I think it's cool that he does those little epigraphs throughout the books because they still don't give too much away. Um,
No, they don't.
but
Yeah.
it almost like
I think
at least the
they're fun.
first
They're
two.
enticing for the reader
Yeah.
because it's to the reader. It's like, what is this puzzle, and like, how do I put it together?
Hmm.
So it's actually something for the reader to solve more than it is for the characters to solve. But it
Yeah.
just works its way so well into the story.
Yeah, I agree.
I don't know why I can't freaking
It's not that big a deal. I'm pretty sure you got it right.
yeah,
But
probably.
yeah, it just I think it lends to the mystery, and it just makes that mystery kind of keep on going, because I know maybe not in the first book necessarily, but there were ones in the like second and third one that I remember
Hmm.
reading being like, okay, and that like almost drove the theories that I had going through the books, like as I went through each chapter, which was really fun.
Hmm.
So yeah.
So I think the epigraphs hook you in from the beginning, and that short little chapter of Kelsier gets you really intrigued into him as a
Oh yeah.
character, right? I mean, because that chapter is kind of brutal. You're immediately learning where the ska place in this class system,
Hmm.
which is at the fucking bottom, like below the ash,
Yeah.
right? And you have somebody who comes along and just completely changes that, like he burns a noble's house down. So like immediately I think that hooks you.
Yeah. The
But
tone
then
is
what
set.
hooked me the most, yeah, the tone is set.
Yeah.
But what hooked me the most, I definitely think was Vin's character and the way we are introduced to Vin's character. Because immediately we're introduced to this character, this young girl, 16-year-old, like 16 years old, who's in this super abusive environment. And I mean, by the previous chapter, we're told that this is like kind of a normal situation,
Yeah.
you know? And that like this is what like the lives of Ska are like in this series, and she has a cruel like master, you could say, like, and this cruel like twisted version of a family where like, and throughout her like thoughts that we're getting throughout the book, like trust is not a thing that she believes in, right? Like she's like, it's survival first and foremost. And then like, so like you get all that stuff to like deeply connect you to her and sympathize with her, and like it, I think, at least for me, like it caused me to care for her like a lot. Like I was like, oh my god, this poor girl, like I don't want anything bad to ever happen to her again. She's been through enough, clearly. And then Kelsier's introduced, and like immediately like just like dismisses this idea of like trust is bad to Vin, but she refuses to accept that like ideology, right? Like she's like, everything that Kelsier does and is, and the way he talks and the way he interacts with her is completely contradictory to the way she thinks and believes. But like it's so ingrained in her, and she's suffered so much trauma of abuse and has so many trust issues that she can't help but just deny that. And so slowly through the book, and really throughout the whole series, it's Vin's journey, like overcoming those trust issues and learning to trust in people, like and learning to take chances. Like people might hurt you, but it's okay. Like, so by the end of the series, she definitely has learned that, and I thought it was really beautiful. Like, um, and I hadn't read many, or even like there's not a lot of women main characters in the world, and to see one that felt so fresh and so well done, like I was just really happy with it. Um, I mean, I'm not a girl, but I do have a younger sister, and I want her to have, you know, good female characters to look up to, and I think Vin's definitely one of them.
Yeah. I
Like,
think.
I loved it. It was such a fresh
Yeah.
take.
And I think that's where that expectation being subverted was really cool, because I
Hmm.
think as a whole she's probably one of, if not one of my favorite female characters I've ever in media that I've ever read.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
because I think she's kind of pushed past those borders. She's been willing to trust. She doesn't hurt other people, um,
Hmm.
as a because she's been hurt, and
Absolutely.
I think that's a big good message. It doesn't. I mean, I think it's kind of it's not shown in your face,
Hmm.
but if you look at it, she doesn't hurt anybody in order to feel better about herself,
No, yeah,
and I
never,
think that's
never. Every time she is pushed to violence, it is because she is scared of what they will do to the people she cares
right.
about, right? Which is why I think in the first book she really struggles a lot with fighting until the very end, because that's when she has the most to lose, right? So like when she goes to the like castle or the tower with Kelsier, right, to like try and find out what's in the Lord Ruler's room, she kind of gets her ass handed to her because she's not fully there yet. I mean, obviously she cares about Kelsier and the others by that point, but she hasn't fully begun to trust them yet. And that scene where Sazed saves her is so mother. I love it.
So mother,
He like carries her back to safety,
so mother.
like like a
I don't
mom.
think we no.
It's
I think
great.
we need to say that Vin has two dads.
Okay, yeah, yeah,
Um,
you're right. And has two dads.
yeah, because
I love that.
yeah, I think it's cool seeing her doubt, and other
Hmm.
characters have doubt. Because we'll get into one of my other favorite characters from the series.
Sure.
Um, but actually, it's funny. All three of the big characters that I really like from the series all have doubt, and that's like that's like the main purpose of each of the books is insert character here's doubt.
It's almost like people who have their own doubts in life relate to characters with doubts
Oh
in
yeah,
life.
well, absolutely. Everybody has doubts in life.
Right. Yeah.
We're both 22, 21-year old college kids. Oh my god,
Exactly. Yeah. Who
we're in
isn't
the thick of it
overrun with doubt on a daily
every
basis?
day. Not
Doubt every
saying that
step I
everybody
take.
else can be, but man, but it's
Yeah.
cool seeing characters like this, I think.
Deal with that and overcome
Yeah.
it.
And I think it's really important that they don't hurt other people as a
Hmm.
cause, because I think there is a lot of people that get hurt nowadays. um
Well, Vin doesn't. Says it doesn't. Kelsier, on the other
I
hand.
wasn't talking about
Oh,
Kelsier.
I right, yeah. But that brings me to a question. What do you think about the morality of Kelsier? How do we feel about Kelsier, like overall as a character, and is he a good person?
I
Would
think
you say Kelsier's a good person?
Kelsier is very similar. No, I wouldn't make that comparison. That's very extreme. He's not similar to the Punisher. That's too much.
That's a little extreme.
I would say he's definitely in that like anti-hero classification. Do I think he's a good
Sure.
person? I think he has good intentions, but I think he's very misguided on a
Okay.
revenge
I
quest. And I
agree.
think that's the one I actually didn't think about that. But you're right, because Kelsier is like the one person that is like he got hurt and he's taking it out on everybody else.
Everyone else.
Um, because I think deep down he kind of blames himself for what happened.
For sure.
Um,
What happened to Mare?
and so I think that's important because I think it's important to show that because I think
Hmm.
that's what happens when you have somebody that gets hurt but can't move past it. I think we have so many people that are hurt nowadays and they kind of just turn around and they you know hurt somebody back because that's in their
Yeah.
mind the right thing to do, and
Or sometimes the
or the
easiest thing to
easiest thing,
do.
right? And I think it's a lot stronger to kind of try and move through it uh,
Mhm.
than to just kind of give up and take that easy way. And
I agree with you. I think Kelsier is a very
I
misguided
think, yeah,
person. I think he
he's
has
very
good
misguided.
intentions, very misguided. I also think what uh, makes him even more misguided is the fact that I think he understands what he is doing is not necessarily
And I think
right.
that's the big thing. Because he knows he's not.
Because when he had a conversation with like Vin about like when Vin really started to get close to Elend,
Yes.
right? Vin started to see that not all
Or
nobles
bad
are
people.
evil.
Right.
Like, And Kelsier's philosophy was kind of like noble blood is evil. If you have noble blood, you are like inherently evil person, which is kind of what the nobles said about Ska, right? It's kind of that prejudice where it's like if you're born with Ska blood, you're inherently lesser,
Which
or like,
the great
you know,
irony behind that is, in order to be a
mhm,
Mistborn or anything, you have to have
you have
both.
to have noble
Or
blood.
yeah, you
Yeah.
have to have noble blood. Or I guess you don't have to have
Hmm.
both. You have to have noble blood.
At least noble blood. So yeah,
So
Kelsier
Kelsier
himself is
has that.
half noble. He's half
So
noble.
it is kind of a blaming himself, but he doesn't know where to place that anger. So he kind of
Yes, he has a
just
lot of misguided
right. So
anger.
he almost feels like he's this like agent of, I wouldn't say chaos, but he's like an agent of like revenge.
Yes.
But he can't ever stop that. I guess he's never going to be able to uh, finish what he started, because at the end of the day,
Yeah.
he would have
As
to
long as he
like,
continues on that path.
if he really wanted to go there, he would have to murder everybody, including himself and like
Right,
anybody
yeah.
that's an Alamancer. So
So,
it I
yeah.
don't. I'm a person that sees good in a lot of people. I've
Hmm.
noticed. I recently I've noticed that there isn't always like, there's definitely bad that outweighs the good in people.
Definitely.
Um, and I don't think good intentions is enough to make you a good person.
I agree.
Um, so I don't think he's a good person, but I think he has good intentions. But he's very misguided in the way that he wants to handle it.
I think he was a good father figure to Vin.
Yes,
I think he did the best he could. I think he saw a bit of Mare in
agreed.
Vin, which is why he treated her. I do think he treated her a lot differently than the others. Like, I think he put more thought into the way he spoke to her and like the things he said. And I think he saw her as like an equal as well. Like like he understood that she had been through some shit just like he had, right? Some trust issues. I mean, obviously with him like thinking, not knowing whether or not Mare betrayed him in the end, right? Like him and Vin shared some of those like trauma of, trust issues. And I think going back to like when Vin started to get closer to Ellen and she kind of challenged him on like, hey, not all noble people are bad, he was very quick to like end that conversation and be like, yeah, maybe you're right. Like I'll give Ellen a chance. Like kind of just do anything he could to end the conversation so it wouldn't further prove him wrong, you know? So like it's again him kind of denying like his own argument by just not acknowledging it.
Right. And yeah, and obviously in the end, he does save Ellen, and I think that's very
Yes.
important, because I think it does show. I think deep, deep, deep down, he is a good person, but I don't think.
At the very least, it showed how much he cared for Vin,
Right.
and I think that's what's the most that's the most important thing of the book. Despite, you could say Kelsier was a bad person
Mhm.
at the end of the day, but he did grow to love Vin like a
Right.
daughter by the end of the book, and I think that's also why he left her with like that one final lesson, which is what caused her to like come full circle in the end of Final Empire, where he said like you have a lot to learn, a lot to left to learn about
Yeah.
friendship. And that's kind of like the fatherly advice or the like just the parental advice, that push that Vin needed to finally like let go, which is what something Kelsier couldn't do, by the way. It was really like a do as I say, not as I do kind of thing, where he's like, you need to let go of stuff. I am too fucked up to do it, but if you let go of stuff, you can really like move past your own issues. And Vin kind of took that to heart. And
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I mean, think of, when she fought two Inquisitors before and when she fights them at the end of the book. I mean, she kind of kicks their
Right.
asses at the end of the book.
Yeah.
She only gets, she gets surprised by the Lord Ruler being all shriveled up.
Exactly. Um. So yeah, but yeah, Kelsier, he's very interesting. Um.
Mhm.
Yeah.
we've talked a lot about Kelsier
Yes.
and book one. Let's move on to another character and let's segue that into book two. Let's talk about Sazed.
Oh, baby.
Yes, your other favorite character.
Uh, no, if I want to go there, top five,
Okay, sure,
Say's at
yeah.
number one, then probably
Okay.
Vin, then
Mm-hmm.
Elend,
Mm-hmm.
then probably Kelsier.
Okay.
Um,
Then what? Tensoon. I know you love Tensoon.
yeah, and then Tensoon and fifth. Yeah, I would say so.
Tensoon maybe above Kelsier.
We'll see how the one book that I'm reading goes.
Okay, sure.
But yes,
He's reading Secret
I am reading
History.
Secret History right now. But Sazed, what do you want? You want to talk about his arc in Love Ascension?
Uh, let's talk about his arc overall.
Okay.
Because we kind of talked about I mean, Kelsier only has like
Oh, dude,
the one book in the trilogy. So let's talk about Sazed's
I
arc
haven't
overall.
talked to him at
Because
all.
he's your favorite.
I haven't
So
talked to Luke at all in days because I'm saving this. Okay,
he has not talked to me about Hero of Ages at
this
all
arc,
because
this character arc, is one of the best character arcs I've ever read.
it's
It's
beautiful.
amazing. A
It's
truly
stunning.
an amazing. Yeah. Uh,
I know.
Sazed going from kind of being this just like loner guy that kind of only relies on his knowledge to be alive, moving into finally having somebody to love, but only to lose that person. And then the only thing that he loved isn't even the same anymore. I think, and him losing faith, because again, his big thing is learning different religions and stuff like that. And I think
Mhm.
uh, it's very cool how it's handled because you know I'm not religious, um,
Mhm.
but I think it's very interesting learning in other religions, and I think the way that his character kind of comes full circle in terms of him kind of trying to figure out which one is the best one, or the one, I guess not the
Right.
best one,
Yeah.
but the one that truly has
Yeah.
the
The
meaning.
most like evidence to support it, or yeah, the most
What is the
meaning
meaning
to
of
him.
it? And
Mhm.
him coming to the end of that and going through all of these different religions, finding all the contradictory and stuff like that
Looking for the truth,
for
right?
that
What he
truth.
perceives as the
But in
truth.
the end, really, all of them have like, there's truth in every single one of them. And I think that's such a
Mhm.
great message to me.
It's such a beautiful message. I
Um,
agree.
it truly is an awesome message because there's just so many different
Mhm.
religions in the world.
And what I love about it
Yeah,
is it's coming from Brandon Sanderson, who himself is a religious Mormon
yeah,
man, and here he is saying, "Hey, there's truth in every religion." Like he's not imposing all of his own ideals, in this book. Like he's admitting that, you know, like just because he believes, in that doesn't mean that he's right necessarily, right? He's saying there's beauty in all of it, and I think that's such a wonderful thing to admit.
yeah. And I think it's a good message that and again, one that I think would be great to have nowadays.
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Because
There's something so
we're not going
sincere
to get
about
political on the
like
podcast, but
no.
um,
But I think there's a a bit of a lack of sincerity with some of these like movies we're getting. Like some
yeah,
movies are just like afraid to be sincere, why I like Barbie, which can be silly but has like these really deep and sincere
yeah,
moments. Like yeah, like it's not like nerdy to like sit down and be serious and try and say something like that you believe wholeheartedly with your chest.
yeah,
Like people shouldn't get shamed for that.
and I think it's important with his arc as a whole because I think it is a sad arc yet triumphant in the end and hopeful in the end. Um, that I think that really makes it important because I
Mhm.
think at the end of the day, kind of showing that the meaning of the world is or the meaning of the world, the universe, is what you make of it, and that there's
Mhm.
truth in everything, and you can learn from everybody.
Yeah.
But sitting there pointing and going, "This is the right one," isn't going to fix it at the end of the day, because eventually something will contradict itself, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
Um, but I think being able to truly admit that there's truth in everything, at least somewhat, because there's probably some
Yeah.
things that there's some
Are kind of
kind of crazy,
crazy.
but
Most things. Yeah.
right. But when there's truth in everything, it allows there to be a little bit more kind of peace of
Yeah.
mind, I think, to me.
I mean, it's good to be open-minded,
Hmm.
is kind of like the most simple way to put Sazed's arc. Like, you know, there's no one right answer. Like different point of views and different perspectives are good, whether you agree or disagree.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good to learn about that stuff because it widens your understanding of the world and other people, which is, I think, like a really beautiful message to say that, you know, it's good to understand other people.
Well, and I think that pairs well with, because I think I would honestly say that each of the books have a main character,
Yeah, I agree.
um, that are all different. But obviously, like, it's like the three main characters, and it's like Vin, Elend, and Sazed. And I
Hmm.
think Final Empire is like big on Vin. Well of Ascension is kind of big on Vin and Elend, but really big on Elend. And then Hero of Ages is big on all three, but really big on Sazed.
I
And I
agree.
think pairing that with Elend and Vin's arc as a couple, but slash everything in the
Hmm.
second book, I think is really cool, because one of the big things that I really liked was, and I can see if I have it in the quote book because I keep a quote book, but a big important thing that I really liked from that was that Ellen admits that he doesn't understand her, like, at all. But the
Hmm.
fact that he understands that he doesn't understand her allows for him to continue loving her. And I think
Hmm.
that's really important, because it allows you to not have to, you don't have to know every little thing, and have to agree on every little thing with the person you're with the people you're with. Um,
And that's kind of the beauty of being with other people, right? Is like every day you might get to learn something new about them.
I think they're both really good messages, I think, for a lot of people, um, because there's so much of just we don't, it's more like we're just quick to anger because we don't understand the other person's perspective.
Yes. And Sazed's character is all about emphasizing understanding the other
Right.
perspective and like trying to understand that person before, you know, any anger takes over.
Yeah.
And I love that he starts off that way and he goes through a struggle where he doesn't quite believe it. And then he kind of ends in a similar but like more enlightened spot
Oh,
where he
well,
like,
yeah, a
compared
bit,
to what was he in
a
the
bit
beginning.
of an enlightened
A bit
spot,
enlightened.
a bit. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, and I think it's a perfect round out for his character. Um, truly, I did not see his character going that way. Honestly, I figured that he was going to die at the end of either the second or this book. Genuinely, I
Yeah. He
figured he
was
was.
he was texting me. He was pretty scared he was gonna die at the end of book
I'm like
two.
sitting there. I'm like, his days are numbered. It's gonna happen. I'm gonna.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about MVPs of the
MVPs
books.
of the books. Okay.
So who would you say is the MVP of book one?
MVP of book one. I think it's kind of a tie for me. For me,
Okay.
Vin and Kelsier, I think, are pretty solid. I think it's really hard for me to say one is the MVP or not. So
Hmm.
I would say 50-50 on them.
50-50. Okay.
For Oh yeah, you
I
go on well
think
on the first one.
I would have to say it's probably Kelsier. As much as I want to say Vin because she gets the actual work done at the end of the
Yeah,
book, if Kelsier didn't have the plan to die as a martyr and, create a whole fucking fake religion out of his
right.
death, then like Vin would not have had the support to storm that castle,
Agreed.
that she needed. And to be fair, like even without Vin, like the Lord Ruler probably would have killed all of them,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
But like still, like she needed that backing to even attempt to get at the Lord Ruler's life.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, I think that's solid. For Well of Ascension,
it says it.
it says it for you.
I think it says it.
Ooh. Okay. Well, I know my MVP for the final one.
But then again, you read this book more recently than I have. So I guess like the biggest things in my memory of book 2 are just the coolest fight, like the coolest fight sequence ever of Sazed fighting off like dozens of Koloss, like holding the gate, like running out of strength and then using his weight reserves to crush a Koloss to death.
Mm-hmm.
Like bro is insane. He's too good at the game. Like
Yes.
I thought it was awesome.
Ooh.
Crushing a Koloss to death. Those things are like
Oh man.
10 feet tall, and he's crushing them to death. But then again, that's like one fight, one battle. But he was like, even throughout the book, though, he was like studying the books and like trying to figure out like where the well was. And he did. And he tried to trick Vin and Ellen to go away from it so they'd be
True.
safe. So like, he was figuring stuff out through that book with Tyndall. It wasn't just him. He had Tyndall's help.
I know who my MVP of Hero of Ages is. It's obvious who the MVP of Hero of Ages is.
Is it obvious?
Yeah.
Who's the MVP?
Well, Hero of Ages is definitely says it.
Yeah.
That one, yeah, solid.
Sazed was struggling though throughout Hero of Ages. Granted, like if he wasn't there at the end, everything would die.
Right.
But
well,
so I guess isn't that the only moment you need?
It's really hard to kind of
the moment that makes her.
Honestly, it's really hard to kind of come up with who the MVPs are because truly, you could even argue that that Elend was the MVP of Hero of Ages too.
I agree because he was the leader of the army, right?
Well, because he came up with a back-asswards plan to just be like, yeah, we're gonna just eat his body and burn his body.
I know, but like he was the one that figured it out,
right?
Like in the end.
So I guess Elend would actually.
It's tough.
It's tough.
It's tough because here's the thing, right? Like in Hero of Ages, like okay, let's focus on Well first.
Yeah.
So like I said, I think it says it. Who do you think?
I think it's.
You can say.
I think
Vin.
it's Vin.
It's okay.
I do because man, I really hope. I really hope these movies get made because I swear, seeing the shot of her just fucking hurtling over the wall with the Koloss sword, and then just cutting Straff in half on the horse.
Yeah.
It's going to be one of the coolest cinematic scenes.
That's going to be like a cinematic scene, but can we talk about what was maybe even crazier of a feat to pull off, which was using atium without having atium?
Oh yeah.
Using somebody else's atium
to do it.
Like she was looking at like this the concept boggles me, but it's so cool,
yeah.
right? Like so Zane is burning atium to see the future. Yeah. Zane can see all the possible futures. So that means in real time, he's going to react to whatever possible future ends up being Vin's, right? And so Vin uses like that, right? So she knows Zane can see the future, and if Zane can see the future, he's going to react to the future. So then all she has to do is react after he reacts, and which technically means she can also see the future, which means
I know.
Like, and you hear in Zane's like his last thoughts, he's like 2 after images like appeared at the last second right before she stabbed me. And like just hearing that like 2 after images appeared from her, like holy shit.
Yeah, I know.
Like it's just crazy. Yeah. So like all she did was literally react faster than him, but on a technical level, it technically means she saw the future,
right?
Which is just it's mind fucking.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I know, and yeah, so I think
atium without atium is pretty crazy,
and then just
but cinematic wise,
yeah, and then
jumping over the
figuring out to like control the Koloss. I mean, boom, boom, boom.
Oh yeah,
and the camera. Yeah. So like across the board. I think it's Vin.
Maybe you're right. And she held the power at the end too of the well, and didn't blow up. She set Ruin free, but she didn't blow up the world.
No.
Right, which she could have fucked up the world even more, like the Lord Ruler did, but she didn't. She kind of does at the end of Hero of Ages, but
Yeah.
she kind of starts like trying to like
And
stop
she's
the
just like,
ash. Like
I don't
she
know how to do
plugs the
this.
ash mounts right, and then doesn't like
Yeah.
that fucks up something. I don't know.
Um, yeah, because I think the ash mounts get plugged up, and so then the sun, you can see it. So then it
Oh
gets
yeah,
really
it starts
hot.
burning the
So she
world,
turns it on
and
the
then she
other
pushes
side,
away, and then it gets really
cold.
cold.
So yeah, but for
Okay,
Hero of Ages,
so for Hero of Ages, I think there's three, right? If Vin doesn't draw in the mists,
yeah,
then she can't kill Ruin,
it's really
right?
hard having
But
this MVP category.
If Ellen doesn't have the atium mistings burn as much atium as
Right,
possible, then Vin doesn't have enough strength to kill
right.
Ruin. But then if Sazed's not there at
If
the
Sazed's not
end, he
Sazed,
can't take the
if Sazed's
powers
not Sazed and
and
having
like
all of that knowledge in order to
but then think about it
fix
too.
the planet,
If Marsh doesn't take out Vin's earring, then she can't take the power to kill Ruin. So is it Marsh? Is Marsh the
if you really
MVP?
won't even go there, if Tensoon didn't eat the horse, he wouldn't have gotten Sazed back.
If Tensoon
So
didn't eat the
everybody was the
horse.
MVP.
No, it's just so great that literally everyone has their single part to play
Yeah.
about like that leads to the ending. Like even Marsh, who is like an antagonist at this
Hmm.
point, right? Like this I love, by the way, the like little POVs we get of Marsh
Yes.
like throughout
Oh
that
yeah, I
book,
really
where he's
liked.
just struggling and he's slowly giving up, right? But then he has the realization that like, oh, during a frenzy, during like a rageful moment, I have some
Yeah.
control. Like and that becomes his
Well, the
plan.
lovely,
He's like, I can't
solid
let
first
ruin
sentence
his
of
own.
Hero of Ages being Marsh struggled to kill himself really just set the tone.
Right. Okay, yeah. So like you hear the end of book 2,
Yeah.
right? Like I am free, which is by the way, just I was left there being like,
What?
what? What do you
What?
mean you're free? That's fucked up. Like what did they just unleash on the
Right.
world? But then I remember going like immediately to Hero Ages and yeah, Marsh struggled to kill himself. I was like, "Whoa.
I know.
Things are bleak."
Yeah. Um. Yeah, I liked Marsh's arc in it. Um. Do they? I don't think they say. Is he like fully dead? I don't think they said
Marsh, they do not confirm if Marsh is dead or
because
alive by the
he's
end of Hero of
because
Ages.
he kills Ellen.
Technically, yeah, he kills Ellen. Okay, so speaking of that, what did you think when Marsh beheaded Ellen?
I thought it was raw as fuck, dude.
That's the thing. I was like, I had such mixed emotions. Like, holy fuck! Like Ellen just got
Yeah,
beheaded,
but he
but
took it like a
holy
champ.
shit! Yeah, like I've never seen somebody get beheaded in a cooler way, and that's
Ned
including
Stark.
Ned Stark.
Yeah, I know.
Like Ned Stark kind of took it like a pussy compared to Ellen, dude. Ellen went out
Oh yeah,
swinging against somebody as powerful as the Lord
because he was
Ruler.
just like,
Okay.
yeah, trust Finn, cool, and then
Yep.
done.
That's my favorite lesson that they learned from book 2 is that despite we might not agree with each other's methods, we trust in each
Right.
other that what they're like each other is doing is the
Yeah,
right
that I don't
thing. Like
understand, but I
right. But
know
I
I trust
trust
you
you.
enough.
Yeah, that's right. You said something along those lines
Yeah, I think
earlier.
that was the big. I think that was the big thing that Ellen said is something along the lines of like, while I might not understand her like why she
Yes.
does it the way she does it, I
He still loves her for her unique
right.
like point of view.
Um, but yeah, I think it's a good way to kind of end his character as well.
Yeah, I thought it was dope as fuck.
Oh yeah.
Like the fact that he's like his Mistborn powers were like so much stronger as
Hmm.
well was pretty flippin' cool.
It was.
Like I like how Vin was like all talent, all skill, like the best Mistborn possibly to ever
And he's
exist
just like
at the
raw
game.
power.
And Velen, yeah, or Elend is like he has the best teacher in the world. But like if they had lived, I still don't think Elend would have ever
No.
caught up to
Mm-mm.
Vin. Like he'll have raw power at the end of the day, but when it comes to skill and
Yeah.
just knowledge, Vin is like 15 Kelsiers put together. Like it's crazy.
I mean,
And
she took out
speaking,
13, 12
she
Inquisitors.
okay, but can we talk about how she fights 12 Inquisitors plus
Right.
Marsh, who is a mini Lord Ruler at that
With
point.
Ruin just in her ear
Yes,
the
with Ruin
whole
in her ear
time.
the entire time. I don't think I've ever seen something more badass than Vin killing
Dude,
12
I
Inquisitors.
really
I
loved
know Marsh beats her in the end, but she kills 12 Inquisitors first and gives him a run
I
for his
just
money.
love
Probably
the
more than
way
Ellen
that he
did.
describes it as like he kind of describes the rain. He sets the scene
Mhm.
just so well. The rain's coming down hard. The lightning just lights up everything, and you're just like
The
the
mists.
mists. It lights up the mist, and you just see all these like cloaks in the background, and then the fact that like she's running, and he describes it as like the flock of ravens going after her. So, guys, I
Movie.
am going into video production in college, guys. Brandon, hire me, please.
Hit him up.
Call me.
Yep. Hey, I'll quit my day job. I will do
We'll do
whatever.
it.
I'll do whatever it
We
takes.
will take care of it. We got it.
Okay. Now speaking of scenes that are cinematic,
Yeah.
the scene, like picture this in a movie, right? The dramatic scene of Marsh slowly killing Vin, and all he does, like he's like choking her with one hand, right? But then with the other, he takes out her earring, and then just imagines Vin's hand like outstretched, and every single fucking mist on the planet coalesces
I know.
into her
It's
hand.
yeah.
Can you imagine like a wide shot of like all the mists on the land just
Yeah.
swooping? And like I like to think of that from Ellen's point of view too, when he's like fighting in the middle of that
And it's just all
battle,
gone.
and then just all of the mists just fucking
Yeah.
like into a dot on the horizon. And I love how in that scene too, Ellen like he like knew kind of.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, oh shit, like
Yeah.
it's
Somebody
Vin.
somebody done fucked up.
Like oh, just thinking of like Vin drawing all the mists
Yeah.
like
Um.
and burning them. Oh, so
Yeah.
cool.
I think it just it's really cool because I just
It's such a conclusion to the
it really
trilogy.
is
Like
because I mean the way that the antagonist in the first book is kind of set up, it's just like oh this is like the Emperor Palpatine. We're getting like the skip on Darth Vader, but
mhm.
no, because you get like it's like Emperor Palpatine gets like murdered at the end of the first Star Wars movie, and then the next two is basically setting up that the Force itself is going to kill everybody, and it's like what?
Can we talk about the real MVP though?
Of
The real
Hero of
MVP of Hero
Ages,
of Ages.
uh,
You know who am I say?
Spook.
Spook. No, because Spook was the one to figure out that if you're pierced by
Yeah.
metal, you are susceptible to ruin. And he sent that guy who, granted, got killed by Marsh, but Marsh read the writing in the plate
Yes.
that like had the
Yes.
message. And so Marsh knew that, right? So without Spook, Marsh never would have
That's true.
known, and he never could have saved Ellen or
That's
Vin.
true. I mean, if
So Spook is the MVP.
well, I mean, he's basically going to be the new leader of like the
Yeah, pretty
world.
cool ending for Spook,
I
right?
think
He
so.
doesn't get the girl, he just gets to be king.
No,
Well, I
he
mean, he
gets the
does
girl.
get a girl. I
Not
mean, he
the
didn't get
one.
Vin.
No,
He didn't get
but
Vin.
he got one. I think that's enough.
No, I love
I do like
Spook.
Spook
He
a lot.
has such a good journey. Yeah, and so like, can we talk about when Sazed takes in the powers
Yes.
and how he uses his knowledge of history and
Yeah.
religions
Oh
to
my god.
reform the
It's
world?
oh my god because as soon as he took them in, and I'm just like, this is really cool. And then it's like, and then Sazed remembered all the knowledge, and I'm like, holy shit! Because all of these religions he talked about focused on something.
And what I love about that scene too is that he comes to his own like kind of personal inner peace before he gets the
Yeah.
power and realizes that his knowledge actually has
Yeah.
usefulness. So like it's not the fact that he got the power and then he's like, "Oh, I can use this knowledge to save the world." No, it's like further validated
Yeah.
that his knowledge was useful because he already like came to that belief before that. So I just love that it's like he comes to like his own inner peace, and then getting the power just furthers the fact that he was like, okay, I was right to do all
Yeah.
that. Like it was a good thing. Like these religions that I've studied all do have beauty in them because they're going to help me save the
Because
world.
there is truth in them all. Boom,
Yes.
boom,
Boom.
boom. Because he preserved everything. He is preservation. Oh my god.
Mhm.
Mind
Yep.
blown.
Well, he's not just
But he
preservation;
is
he's
ruin.
preservation and ruin.
What kind of crack is
So
Brandon smoking, dude? Because it's
you wanna know what he's called?
who?
I told Kaylee.
Sazed?
Sazed.
Oh,
You want to know
does he have like
what preservation and ruin
is it
make?
supposed to like be a secret until a certain point?
I don't think
When does
so.
it get
Maybe.
revealed?
I mean, there's always going to be some. You'll find out, like in Alloy Law, like it's almost like a swear word.
Oh,
Like
because I mean, yeah, because he's just
in
God
Alloy of
forever.
Law, sometimes they're like rust and ruin. Like
Oh, that's good.
that's kind of that's one of their swears, right?
Wait,
Um,
why do they call him Rust and Ruin?
no, they don't.
Oh,
That's not what they call.
okay.
So they call him Harmony.
Oh my god, that's so
Isn't
good.
that so good?
That's
Isn't that
so
so good?
good.
Like like when I was reading Alloy, I was like Harmony, Harmony. I was like, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's
I told
hmm.
Kaylee too when she finished. She was like, "Oh, says it's preservation on ruin." I'm like, "He's harmony." Interesting,
Yeah, that's really good.
right?
Yeah, I like Mistborn a lot. Yeah. Yeah, I think
Oh, so were you expecting? I mean, you were kind of expecting Vin to die,
yes.
but were you expecting Vin and Ellen
I
to kick it?
figured that it was going to be one or the other,
Mhm.
personally. Um, I genuinely did. But remember, so I had made a prediction because Luke loves to go. So what are your percentages of like how people are going to die? And I had said maybe the night before I finished Hero of Ages.
I think it was the night before.
I said that Vin was not going. She was either going to die or she was going to not be living anymore.
Hmm.
Um, which is kind of true.
And so I guess what did you mean by that? Like you
I
thought she
thought
was
she was
going
going
to
to
take
take
up
up the
the
power.
power.
I
Okay.
thought she in the end would take up the power. So it was really cool, nice
Just
subversion of expectations when my boy came in just like, yeah, I'm a book nerd and I am God now.
I'm both gods.
Yeah, like Adam, like yeah, it's just. But I think with the way that their relationship is kind of set up, it would be really
Hmm.
hard for me to kind of be like, oh, one of them died,
And then the other one's left
one's
alone.
left alone,
Like,
and so I think
yeah,
Brandon almost like
would have been
right,
devastating.
which is a little bit of a different take on that, and so I thought it was cool
Hmm.
that he kind of did that and was like, yeah,
I bet he thought it was too sad to let one of them die and let the other live
well,
without
because that's
them.
like the whole
So
driving force of the
yeah,
second book is their relationship.
yeah. By the second book, like they are the most important things in each other's
Yeah,
lives, and like without the other, they would not be able to do what they do in book three.
right,
So like,
and so I think especially because like says its little note to Spook, kind of being like they're happy where they're at.
can we talk about how like Sazed like put Ellen's head back on his body,
Yeah.
right? Like, but he like put them together in like a field of flowers, which by the way, there was so much fan art of that,
Oh, really?
and like every time I see it, it makes me like want to tear up. Like it's just so fucking
Oh.
because they're like head to head and they're like curled up in the flowers together and they're like sometimes they have like each other's hands
Okay, you got to
together.
send me that
I was just
because
like
I can't look
I was
anything
like
up because
fuck
I
you
don't want to
guys.
see. I did this for Red Rising. I'm like, I'm not looking anything up because I know somebody's gonna be like, hee
Let
hee.
me
I'm
let me try
gonna
and find something for you.
do. No, dude, I need to get a mist cloak right now.
Can we also talk about when Sazed comes like finally arrives on the battlefield
Hmm.
and sees Vin's body?
Yeah.
Like
Um, and he like
how?
cradles her.
Yeah, he cradles her and he's like, Like
Because I think
he's one of her dads. That's his daughter.
because I think what's the most devastating about that is because, and Brandon doesn't go into it too much, but Vin was all he had left, really.
Yeah.
Um,
Because despite him and Kelsier's differences, I mean, they still
mhm.
cared for each other. So
But
like,
he wasn't like, I guess he was kind of close to having that realization that there was truth in all the religions.
mhm.
Um, but that was like almost like that breaking point. So
Yeah,
yeah, I like
Kelsier first Kelsier, then Tindwell, and then he has to hold Vin in his arms at the end
right.
too. And
I also love the fact. Um,
that scene made me
I
tear
also
up.
love the fact, and obviously I haven't finished Secret History, but I figured that this would have a kind of meaning in Secret History. But I do like the added fact of both when preservation is fully that his body just drops a couple seconds later,
Yep.
um,
And then
and
when
then
Ruin
Ruin
dies,
dies. Same thing.
his body
Um,
drops a couple seconds later.
I don't know what the name of those are.
So, oh, you want to know Ruin's name?
It's
I don't know
Ati.
if they ever. It's okay. They do say it,
Yeah, they
Ati,
say it in.
ATM.
Oh shit!
You hadn't put that together yet? Yes! I'm so glad.
I didn't even think
Isn't that
about
kind of
that.
cool? Isn't that kind of cool?
Yeah, it is kind of cool.
It's kind of cool.
Oh, what crack is he smoking? How does he do
It's too
that?
good. It's too good. As soon as I saw his name, I was like, Ati, ATM. Are you kidding me, Brandon?
Yeah.
Like, that's such a small thing. You don't have to
Well, we got to
fucking do
save that
that.
for
You
the
don't have to
Secret
make
History
the.
one. I have to save it. I'm not done with it. But yeah, I like that added detail. I just like to imagine the fact that they're all just like mourning over this, and it's like, who's that guy? Um, but because okay, the scene with Ellen talking to Preservation before Preservation died, I thought was great because anytime, what was
Mhm.
it like? Anytime he wanted to like signal something to Ellen, he's like waving his arms or something, which I thought was really funny.
I love it.
Yeah. So it's just so good. The foreshadowing is just so good. Everything is so good. It feels very intertwined. This is why, and I'm not naming names, but when you do a trilogy, you plan it out. I'm not naming names, but when you do a trilogy, you plan it out and you don't have three different writers on it. But again, I'm not naming names.
No one's naming names, but it doesn't hurt to write all three of them before you release the first one.
Yeah.
And then, maybe like have one guy work on the first one, a different guy work on the second one, and then have the same guy work on the last one. And we're not naming names, but like hypothetically that wouldn't
You guys
happen.
knew that this would come up in the argument. Let's just.
Okay. The podcast can't become another
No.
way to.
Bash. Bash the franchise that must not be named.
Yeah.
No, we'll save that for the PlayStation Party chats.
Exactly. It'll happen. It always happens. Always loops back around to that.
Oh,
See if there's anything
theories
else.
for the Cosmere.
Well, let's do. I want your favorite moment from each
Oh,
book, and then you can give me like what theories you
okay.
have.
So my favorite moment from Final Empire is when Kelsier gets his face just fucking
Okay, that's a great one. I
solid.
think honestly that might be mine too,
Um, it is so
because it's
shocking.
like,
It
yeah,
is like genuinely, I didn't think that that's how it was going to go.
he had such a badass fight with an Inquisitor
And
before it
honestly, I would
too.
just say everything leading up to that plus that is like my favorite moment of the book because
Okay,
the whole fight is just cool. But the fact that he's just like done, wow, yeah. Um, and so you agreed.
I'd say yeah, it's probably that one, and or the final battle where like Sazed tosses Vin the spear
Yeah,
that she uses to kill the Lord
that's a
Ruler.
good one.
Pretty dope because I love a good fight that's like I love a good dirty fight.
Oh yeah,
It's like 2-on-1. I mean, and even then, it's not 2-on-1 because Marsh shows up at the end
Yeah,
to help them, right? So it's like Sazed, Marsh, and Vin all fighting the Lord
right.
Ruler, and it's just cool as fuck.
Oh my god, I didn't even think about the fact that Marsh was helping, but he wasn't helping. It was Ruin helping. Oh my god. What crack is he smoking?
I mean, it could have like kind of still been
Nah,
Marsh.
Ruin implies that he helped.
Yeah, but like, well, Ruin was definitely talking to
Yeah.
him, but the thing is that the Lord Ruler controlled the Inquisitors at that time that Ruin
Oh
was
yeah, you're right.
imprisoned, and so the Lord Ruler had the most influence
Hmm.
over the Inquisitors at the
Yeah.
time. But by book two, Lord Ruler's gone, and so that left Ruin to be the main influence on Marsh, which is what slowly drove him mad. And then when he was freed, that gave him like complete control over Marsh,
Right.
other than when he was like in a bloodlust.
Yeah. Um. So
But
those,
yeah,
yeah, solid moments from Final Empire. I would say, Well of Ascension. Uh, it's gotta be Vin just freaking yeeting over the wall and cutting Straff in half.
it's too cool, man.
It's too cool.
Too
Um,
cool.
but yeah, I really like that moment. Um, but don't.
For me,
It's the Sazed one.
it's gotta be Sazed
Yeah,
fighting the
that
Colossus.
one's solid.
Like the fact that he fights them for that long and that intensely and kills that many of them, and then when he runs out of his strength, right? He runs out of his pewter mines. Bro should be dead. Nope, I'm gonna crush him with my stored weight. He keeps fighting with mines like that you wouldn't think would ever be
Yeah,
used for combat.
no, he's a smart strategist, which I like.
Like he's like on top of it, right? Like holding its face or neck or something, and he like increases weight, and like they're sinking into the stone
Yes,
because he's like so
yeah,
heavy. And I'm like, that's so
yeah, I
cool.
know. Yeah,
And then like a page or two later, he's walking through this, picks up Tyndall's body.
you know what? If you want to go
Two
there, cool.
sad
We can have favorite moments and then best Sazed moments. Um,
best season
best Sazed
moments.
moment of Well of
I
Ascension
love season.
is him getting impaled by his medals and using the health one to restore it because he was like, "Oh, I remember that."
Oh yeah, dude, I fucking forgot
Yeah,
about that. When Marsh pushes the medals
yeah.
into his stomach, like the
Mm-hmm.
rings, and then he's like,
Oh, I
"Oh, I
remember.
had one of those like
Right.
rings. Like I had a health mine." And like it's like you can like almost like think of like the way his mind was so fuzzy, like on the brink of death. Like bro like maybe had like a drop of blood left in his body before he was like and like
Right.
so fucking
Yeah.
cool.
And then Hero of Ages. Uh, Hero of Ages best moment. Do you have one queued up? I'd have to think about it.
Mm. Courage's best moment. I think it's gotta be Vin fighting
Uh,
12 Inquisitors
Oh,
plus Marsh.
yeah.
Like, what the
Yeah, I
hell?
know.
Like, fighting the Lord Ruler in a 3v1, that's one
Hmm.
thing. Fighting a whole army of Koloss, that's another
Hmm.
thing. Fighting 12 Inquisitors plus Marsh. What the hell, Vin?
Yeah,
Like, you are on crack. You are on a constant stream of duralumin, and it's just not
I
stopping.
know.
Like,
That
what the
one's
frick?
definitely one of the my favorites, just because of the way that he describes it.
It's one of the like, yeah, like I just like to close my eyes and think about the way he wrote
But
that.
because she's just being
Like,
chased by a bunch of overpowered Batmen, like
yeah, like the visuals are just so
yeah,
beautiful, and like, yeah, the way
he
you like
just
when you said earlier, like how he described it, like crows,
yes.
and like I think I like to think of her mist cloak being like white and grayish, and all of theirs being like
Oh
black,
yeah, pitch
right?
black. Um,
Pitch black.
yeah,
Damn, it really just started fucking raining.
um, yeah. I I would say that's my favorite, though. No, I do like the Sazed moment when he gets both of the powers. It's just
I mean,
it's a good
it's just
just
a beautiful
bow
conclusion.
tied on that. It really is.
it's a beautiful moment.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the way like it's described from Sazed's point of view, where like he can feel both the powers and he can feel them like harmonizing. Like,
Yeah.
it's great.
I think it's a cool. It's just truly, it feels like one of the most complete character arcs I've ever read.
Hmm.
Um, Genuinely, like I don't, you don't always see him like that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, it, I really like the way that he kind of tied Sazed's story up. If it's done.
Moving on from
Yeah.
that,
Oh,
let's
yeah. You
go
want to
into
cut me
like
off like that?
uh
Yeah. Uh huh.
yes. Moving on from that, let's go into like predictions or theories and stuff. And can you hear that
I can.
fucking rain like on your end? Okay. That's probably
It'll be
gonna.
fine.
All right. Holy fuck! Is it? Hold on. Is it hailing?
Well, you're next to the window.
Yeah. Damn. You want me to move
No,
away?
it's fine.
Like, okay. Um, predictions, theories. First things first, I want to ask you, what do you think a shard is?
Um.
So, for like, Cullen's understanding of the Cosmere is basically anything he can remember that I've told him generally about the Cosmere, and then his knowledge of the first three
I don't
books
think you're
plus
gonna
whatever
ask me
he's read
that
in
because I
Secret
know what a
History.
shard is based off of Secret History.
Oh, they've said in
Yeah,
Secret
they
History.
said what
Okay.
it is
Okay.
or what they are. Yeah,
Okay.
I know what they are. Um,
You know how many there
yes.
are. Okay.
Um, but we'll get into that with the Secret History book.
Okay.
Uh,
Sure. Yeah. Well, let's talk about that more in Secret History.
but
Predictions, theories.
so
What do you think Scadrial will? Like what conflicts do you foresee with
well, obviously, I
Scadrial?
think
Like,
now it'll advance. With
sure.
the fact that you know, uh,
I've mentioned before as well to him that Era 2 takes place in kind of the Industrial
yeah,
Revolution
and
age. So,
I think it'll be it's interesting that they're like they can finally like advance now that the Lord Ruler's not like kind of keeping them subdued.
mhm.
Um, so that's really cool. I I would assume a couple characters kind of stick around. Um, Considering that there's like an omnipotent one of them's now an omnipotent being. But
Who would that be?
Sazed, and now that I guess so. Here's the thing. Um, Two of the characters don't. We don't really know if they're fully dead or not. Obviously, Marsh and Tensoon. I don't know.
They do
They
not
don't
say.
say. They kind of
Yeah,
just say that
they
it's a
don't
room
confirm.
full of the Kandra that are turned to Misrates. Um, it's almost implied that he is, but we don't know. And I've said for a while that I had a feeling that Tensoon at least would be a character that would bridge the gap between both.
But now you're not exactly sure of
I
that.
can see him showing up. I can also see Marsh showing up. Honestly, if all three of them, Sazed, Marsh, and Tensoon show up, because we're pretending like I'm not reading Secret History, um, where that supposed fourth character will also probably show up.
For the next episode.
Yeah. Uh, I think it's cool that he's got like at least a little team of characters from the first one that are going to stick around, and I'm hoping that since he is having the jump between each of the eras, because I know that there's a third era and a fourth era, and apparently maybe a one in between the third and the fourth one, so there probably will be five.
Which would may be the fourth and push 4 to 5.
It would be honestly really cool if he kind of keeps some of those characters around for each, so he's kind of bridging the gap between.
Mhm.
Because I think any good series that has like where we're kind of brand new cast of characters, there always needs to be a good foil that stays across the board.
Mhm.
Um, and I think if Marsh is alive and Tensoon is alive, it'll allow to show how those, well, at least specifically the Kandra culture changes over the years. and decades, centuries, as well as the ska and the non-ska. What do they call them? Or they just call them
I they just call them the
the nobles?
nobles. Yeah,
Um,
nobility.
so yeah, but I don't really have any like huge theories for the Cosmere as a whole, just because.
You really start formulating theories once you get to
Yeah,
Stormlight. Like there's still some epigraphs in Way of Kings that people still look at today and are like,
what does that mean?
what the fuck could this
Right.
mean? Like, where's like, at what point in time is this referencing? Like,
Hmm.
like
Yeah, I mean, but I'm along for the ride, and uh, if you could see my book stack over here, it's
it's got
it's
a mighty
it's
big
ever
book stack.
growing. So yeah,
So yeah, the next episode we do will probably be Secret
we're
History.
gonna do 11th Metal / Secret History.
Okay, 11th Metal / Secret
Um,
History,
yeah,
and we can probably talk about whatever they mention about the Scadrian system
yeah,
as
we can talk
well,
about that.
because
Yeah,
they'll mention that. Uh, I've told him that Chris is the character that like writes all of the Ars
yeah,
Arcanum stuff at the end, and she also writes the like those planetary
hmm
summaries, like those system summaries. So, and then he briefly mentioned that I think he met Chris
I
in
did.
Secret
Yeah,
History. Um, but yeah, so next one will probably be Secret History, and then after that, we'll probably start doing the next trilogy of Red Rising, right?
well, we'll
Like
probably
next one we do.
do. We can probably get away with the first trilogy, and
Oh, right, yeah,
because we
that's
can't do
right.
the second trilogy without. But then we can probably do the second half of Red Rising one by one. So
Yes. So yeah, next one after Secret History will be the Red Rising trilogy, which we will try and plan better than this one.
yes, I will try to
Keep it a little more
maybe try to
concise,
take some
and for
notes.
yes, we'll keep it. We'll try and keep it organized,
Yeah.
because our thoughts on this were all over the
Look, this is the
place.
first episode. We're doing a trial run. If it's longer than
Yes,
typical, if it's
trial
shorter than
run.
typical, we're gonna see how it goes.
All right, we'll take some notes. We'll come up with some talking
Yeah,
points. But then after that, yeah, it'll probably be one by one episodes of a book apiece, which will probably be more
I think
manageable
so.
than talking about a full
Yeah,
trilogy.
we kind of
Um,
planned this as I was in the middle of like Hero of Ages, so it was
yeah.
kind of hard to. But
But
I think we're good.
regardless, next episode will be purely about secret
Yes,
history, so that'll probably be
I think
easier
so.
and probably not quite
No,
as
I
long.
don't think so. So yeah, but thanks guys for watching. I hope
Yeah,
you guys enjoyed.
yeah.
Um,
Thanks everybody. If I assume a bunch of Cosmere fans are watching
yeah.
this, if anybody, I assume you're a Cosmere fan. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, things you'd like to share, opinions, all of that. Anything we got wrong, anything I got wrong, like let us know, please.
Any
Like
theories that I
we,
had that you
I
want to make fun of me and go, haha, I know, and you don't,
yeah,
go for it. That's the
but
point.
like there's so much to know about the series, and I feel like half of it is words of Brandon that I just haven't come across
Yeah.
yet. So yeah, just if there's anything spoilery, make sure to put spoiler
Yes.
like in the comments,
Let's be
because
fair, guys.
don't want to spoil him.
Well,
Well, spoil me because
I
I've
just
read
won't look at the
everything.
comments.
Sure, yeah, I will. So
Watch
let me
out.
know, guys.
All right.
All right,
Peace
peace.
out.